that point. So I was at the On Center last week, and we had Steve Bulger and Linda Lopez with us. And Steve texted me and said, "I'm not used to this traffic. I'll be there soon." Like he's like, "I'm not used to this in Utica." Like everybody converging on downtown, and then obviously getting to the garage and parking and for an event. It's case in point. He's just like, "This is amazing that you got 500-600 people at 8 o'clock in the morning to come downtown."
Moving away from the Mohawk Valley years ago and then coming back with some of the roads that they put in place that weren't there before. Is it 870? Is that the one that runs
840.
840? That's a game changer. When back in the old days, you'd have to, go circle the mall or go down Oriskany Boulevard to get anywhere on that northwest side of New Hartford. I think if I'm
Yep.
guessing, but that makes it really nice to see that change. So, among many other amazing changes in the Mohawk Valley and the energy that's coming to life in this awesome little ecosystem. And along with that is the Good News Foundation and our friend Brian Seville. And I just want to welcome you today and appreciate you for sharing time and making the city a little bit smaller and stronger. And we don't ever specify which city. So in this case today, it's Utica and that surrounding area. So thanks for joining us, Brian.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
Well, first and foremost, bringing it back, it's always about the connection with making the city smaller and the people and the connections of the currency in this community and this ecosystem that's ever growing. And we're not the ones solely building it. It's the people and the energy that they bring to these experiences. But with that, shout out and a dear thank you to our dear friend Steve Mitchell, who made this introduction. I went back in time today. And looks like it was July 2nd, 2025, where he shot an email to both of us, Brian, you and I think, Mike, you may have been copied on that, just saying, "Hey, I've spent some time with each of you, and it might make sense for you guys to connect." And I couldn't agree more. So
Yeah.
Steve is an amazing advocate of what we're doing, and we're super grateful for him making this connection with you and your organization. So
He's a great guy. It's been good for me too. We've really had a good relationship since I met him, and he's introduced me to other people as well. So,
yeah, and share a little bit about how you came or how he came into your space.
well, we host quarterly here at the center, the Good News Center, Christian Businessmen's Connection. So they'll have a different breakfast we host. They come here, we put it on, cook breakfast for them, and they'll always have a speaker talk about their testimony, how they became a disciple of Christ. And Steve actually spoke at one of them. And I got, obviously, when I joined the Good News Foundation back in May of 24, I started going. Paul Marshall, who's on our board, he's the former CEO, executive director of the Willow Network, formerly CareNet. He really brought that here to the Good News Center. And from there, I started to meet other people, including Steve. And that's really kind of how it started. And it's really a great quarterly way to connect with Christians who are in the business community. So I know they do stuff out in Syracuse too. I think, I don't know if it's every quarter they rotate back and forth, but it's just really great. So it's a nice way to connect with people, and it's early in the morning, so you can get breakfast and
Right.
hear someone talk, and then you still have your whole day to get work done.
With that in mind, any of those connections that you can think of that have created opportunity for you?
Well, funny because the first person who gave their testimony was George Carpenter, who's the founder of C&D Advertising. And when we were going through the process last year, or yeah, it was last year, of redoing our website and rebranding, we were looking to upgrade it. It had been a while since our website had been updated. It's been a while since our look had changed, and I felt it was time to kind of update both of those. And through the process, we actually were connected with Jen Brillante, who's now the president of C&D, and I reached out to her, and you know, realizing we had the connection with George and Jen and Sarah Porter came in, and we met. We had a great meeting, and ultimately now we're working with them. So that was probably the biggest thing. But we've met other people as well, kind of through Steve and others.
Mm.
It's been great.
So is just one quick, just from my own brain, was that Christian businessman? Is that what you said it was?
Businessman's Connection, yeah.
Okay, was that already established prior to you coming on board?
It had just started. I think
Okay.
they have maybe one or two, maybe only one. I can't remember. It's either one or two before I joined.
Right. Love that. Yeah. So I love hearing about the connections. It just, I think there's a huge piece missing in life where people are so busy, especially today, to not take the
Mhm.
time to actually think about how they got to where they are and who got them there and what that means. And then taking the
Mhm.
time to share that gratitude with that person, or paying it back or paying it forward to someone else by creating that connection awareness, so to speak. So,
And
hey,
I love to eat, so, you know, if there's a breakfast meeting or a lunch meeting or a dinner meeting, it's always good when there's food.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that it's another great example of breaking bread, right, Peter? We
Yeah.
talk about that all the time, and we're integrating those, that element into our experiences from time to time, because it is where you really get to know the person across the table by sharing food and drink and conversation.
yeah. So something you said led me into one of my bullets that I wanted to talk about today in the rebranding. I thought maybe that offers an opportunity to talk a little bit about Good News Foundation and where it started, where it came from,
Mhm.
and just to understand kind of what the roots of this organization that you're a part of are.
Well, it started with Leroy and Hazel Scheitelman, who left a significant amount of money, substantial, to form the foundation, the Good News Foundation. And it was really started solely for the purposes of Catholic evangelization. I think they felt the need, a lot of people for various reasons that have been documented out in the, on the internet. You can probably read about it, but just a need that try to bring people maybe who had left the church back or bring other people in. And over time, a couple of things happened. 25 years ago, it was actually 2001, the foundation purchased the building that I sit in now, which is the Good News Center. It was the home for the fathers and brothers of St. Vincent de Paul, the Vincentian fathers and brothers, and they had their mission house here. So and this is where they worked from to do their ministry. But they had left, and we took over the building. And I think when I want to say it was when Mike Buckley took over as the executive director, CEO, executive director, probably mid 2000, 2006, 7, 8. He wanted to one make it more ecumenical, really more Christian, not just Catholic but Christian focused in terms of evangelization. Just recognizing that we have a lot in common as Christians, whether you're Catholic or whatever denomination, Protestant denomination you might be. And he also wanted to open it up. I think he recognized that there was a need in families to help them, and maybe there was more of a practical way. Catholics like to call it the spiritual works of mercy, to help people. And they started the support groups, the peer support groups, relationship based primarily. It started with marriage and relationships. The third option is a support group program for folks that are in marriage. Although my wife and I went through it, and we said, gee, if you were engaged, it would, or even in a long term relationship, it could be really beneficial. And then separated and divorced, because we know that a lot of people, their marriages, for whatever reasons, fall, they don't last, or they're struggling and they're separated. And it was an opportunity to meet with like minded people who are going through the same thing that they are. And from there, we've added, caregivers, grief, parents of addicted loved ones, which is kind of mistitled because you don't have to be a parent. It could be any family member. If you've got somebody you love who's struggling with addiction, it's not for the person that's addicted, but the one who in the family or loved one who is
Right.
struggling, trying to cope with that. That's
Right.
a great place to go. And, grief is sadly popular, but, needed. And like I said, caregivers, we have an aging population here in the community, and talk to just about anybody, and they either have or are taking care of a loved one.
Yeah.
And it's a great way of getting practical ideas again. And all of these, none of them are counseling. So it, if we try to refer people if they need counseling, but if you're looking to be with like-minded people in a facilitated support group situation, these are all great things. We had started Veterans for Worship in the fall of 2024 after I joined.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
I love that. Yeah, because I think I think it's important to understand. One of the things you've talked to me about is the need to have more people know about the Good News Foundation, which I think is ironic based on the name, right? We want to get the good news out
Yeah.
to more people about the Good News Foundation, pun intended. Getting people comfortable, people knowing ahead of time, right? When they're hearing about what you're doing, there's a lot of insecurities as human beings that we have when it means A, going to a new place, B, doing something different, C, doing it and sharing about the thing that's bothering you in front of other people that you don't know. So I think when you're talking about it being a welcoming setting and not a counseling session, but more
Mhm.
A fellowship, I think, is probably critical to people who are a little uneasy about sticking that toe in the water about coming into the Good News Foundation to understand how they
Yeah.
can help them. But I'm particularly interested in the caregivers one.
Mhm.
Where my wife and I moved back here to Remsen from the Syracuse market in 2020 with a an unspoken realization that at some point we're going to have to be here for my parents who are
Mhm.
closing in on 80 years old. And in the last 3 months, there's been some events and experiences that have made that understanding of what a caregiver really looks like
Mhm.
a lot more evident than it was prior. And all those instances of hearing other people talking about their parents falling or their parents being sick or their parents'
Mhm.
doctor's appointments, you always try to roll with empathy and compassion, but until you're actually in that seat, which we are beginning to. So I think I love that you kind of reminded me of that caregivers piece. I think that my wife Bernadette and I might take a look at your events calendar and pop down. And not only that, but I'd like to experience what the stories and the people that were sharing their stories and what they're doing. I'd like to be a part of and get in the boat
Mhm.
and kind of get a feel for the
Mhm.
pulse and the energy of what they're doing. So if I'm going to share the story, it's good if I actually understand it
Sure.
by getting in there and feeling like I read it. So
Mhm. Well, and the nice thing about the groups, well, first of all, there's no charge to come to a support group meeting. So, and anybody's welcome. You don't. One of the concerns often, in addition to what you've raised about, just people being reluctant to come for the reasons that you mentioned, is because they hear Catholic or Christian and they're like, well, I'm not, so I don't want to
mm,
come. And our support groups are, it doesn't matter. You could be atheist and come to the group. We're here to help. There may be components or times where people will talk about faith or they're within some of the materials that the facilitators use, but again, it's not required. We understand that people come that really struggle with faith. A lot of them, because of what they're going through, struggle with faith. So they're very sensitive to that. The facilitators that lead the groups, they've been through what the folks that are in the group are going through, so they have a real understanding and empathy and compassion for those who come through the door and are with them. So it's just really great. It's been eye opening for me. And coming from the business world where it's just go 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 get results, and
yeah,
all of that, to come to a place where I've learned so much about what and seeing what people struggle with,
yeah,
it's been really, helpful for me as well, personally, as
yeah.
much as, professionally.
I love when you prompt me. Can we steer a little bit into your past life and then maybe share a little bit of what you did before and how you transitioned from the profit to the non-profit space, my friend?
Sure, sure. Well, I worked for the state of New York for a couple of years, in the early '90s, at the state senate, in the research department, but when my wife and I got engaged and then married, she was teaching here in Utica, so I moved back home, after living in Albany for about 3 years, and started with the Hartford Insurance as an underwriter, and then, in '98, I moved to, Utica National as a marketing rep, like a national insurance group. So my life, since '95 has been in the insurance business as an underwriter, marketing rep. I've had other positions within the company. I worked my way up. I was a marketing manager at one point, and then eventually, the last almost decade before I came here, I was the senior vice president in charge of our educational institution segment. For those that are in the area, whether you're here in Utica or out in Syracuse, Utica National is the largest writer of public schools in New York State, and we write many of the schools that are in our area out this way. Not all of them, but many of them, and also insured private schools, charter schools, small private colleges, and community colleges. So I had the countrywide program. We grew quite a bit over the decade that I was running it. I had a great team of people working with me and had a lot of support from the senior leadership at the company. They were great to work with. It was great. It was a great run. The company was wonderful to me. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked there, and still have a lot of friends over there that are there, and a lot of friends who have left, retired, and just a great experience. But I was happy the way it worked out. The opportunity came up. It was a good time for me personally, professionally, to make the move. My wife was very supportive of it. Phyllis, she was great. It's just been a real good. Can't say enough. I love to come to work every day. Although I was happy not to have to work tomorrow or yesterday, I should say, with the weather.
I don't know. Sounds like you got a preloaded vacation day tomorrow.
No,
Sounds
I gotta. Well, as both of you probably know when you have a plan for the day and then it's
yeah.
postponed because of the weather, everything, kind of throws your whole week off and you end up
Yeah.
being probably busier than if you had worked the 5 days. The same thing
Right.
last week. We were off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's like, you're like, man, that it's only 4 days, but it was
Yeah.
busy 4 days. So,
Right. We're all just kind of, right now, recording today, I think today's the 27th, if I'm
yeah.
correct. Yeah. I think we're all as a collective in the corporate world, business world, just kind of finally getting our visibility clear after the holidays, right? It takes the hangover is gone, so to speak.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned being in the marketing space. Did that contribute to your immediate look at the branding there at Good News Foundation and say, hey, this has got to get stepped up based on my experience?
Oh, yes, it absolutely did. I think, and again, it wasn't that there was anything wrong with what we had. It was just, it was old and dated.
Yeah,
We live
it
in
was
a
time.
different time. Yeah, it was needed. And like I said, the change to C&D was big for us, because we had worked with somebody for a long time. It was really great to work with, but I just felt that we needed to make that move. And so far, it's been really good. They've been wonderful to work with. George, this Jen Velate's been wonderful, and we're real happy that we made the move. And you feel the energy. Just having the conversations, putting things together. It took a little longer than we hoped to get the website out and the advertising going, but we got there towards the end of last year, and now we're full speed, full speed
Yeah.
ahead. So it's all good.
Right. I noticed it firsthand. I mean, I did like to your point. The first time I looked at your website, I wasn't cringing, thinking like, man, who put it looked completely professional. But I do
Mhm.
recall the first day I pulled in and saw the new sign out front.
Mhm.
And it popped and it looked progressive and it looked good.
Thanks.
So for what it's worth, yeah.
And that's one of the things I've tried to do since I've been here. We had COVID. There was some changes here before I got here, and the team did a great job of keeping the ship afloat. But we needed to do some refresh with the building, and the team really has done a great job of
Yeah.
ideas, things we've needed, and helping to implement them. And one of them was the sign, just turning the sign so that you could see it from the road. I mean, for folks who
Right.
used to pull up, if you hadn't seen the old sign, if you're going by at a decent speed, you're not gonna see that sign.
Right.
But now it's turned the right way and
Yeah.
lit up well, so we can can be seen,
I bet
visible
there was
from
a
the road.
reason. I bet they had some reason at one point. There's probably something that made it be that way, or maybe someone just got blind on the vision and just saw the sign and forgot that people are gonna have to see it. It's funny how things like that happen.
I can't tell you
So
how many people would say, "Oh, I drove right by."
yeah, yeah. Well, it's good. It's a step in the right direction for people to know that you guys exist and exist. You do. I think it's 60 acres of beauty and this serene little place that's nestled just seconds away from the thruway, seconds away from downtown Utica. I think it's so cool that from an event perspective, someone who does these type of things with gathering people all the time, the convenience of how hard it is to get there is a real factor on how easy or hard it's going to be to get
Mhm.
people to walk through those doors and into those four walls. So I love that. But something I did want to talk about was if we're and the next step of this is to really talk a little bit about your team. But when Mike and I came out with John Ryan,
Mhm.
I don't know, it was a few weeks ago, and it had been snowing like the dickens while we were inside. And we go to leave the building after having a great meeting, and someone on your team brought it to the next level of customer service. There was a shoveled path individually to each one of our driver's side doors in a triangular fashion leading from the building right to that person said those three guys are in there talking to Brian. When they leave, they're going to not have to deal with snow on their shoes. He probably didn't know us from Remsen, and that's the only way we know how to walk outside, but that's fine. I just thought the gesture reflective of the culture that you guys have there and the care to take care of the people that come to spend time. So we were very appreciative of that.
Brian, did you know he had done that? I'm assuming it was the guy that we bumped into him on the tour a couple of times, young guy. Did you know he did that? And has he done that before? It was literally, you walk out of the building and we were together, right? And you got to like the parking lot, and then there were three paths shoveled
Mhm.
perfectly to each of the three cars. And I mean, it was like 5-star. It was, it's like a white glove, whatever metaphor you want to use. But how do you feel right now hearing the story?
No, it was great. It was Logan that did that. Yeah, and I didn't know that. I did not ask. I did not know until I saw the picture from Pete, and I'm like, wow, this is great. That is the kind of thing that he would do, and that really a lot of us would do. I think, and I'd like to say that that culture was created by me, but it really I inherited that culture when I came. The folks here, we really do care about people, and I mean, we've talked about it as a team since I've been here. We're Christian, we're called to love Christ, and we love Christ by loving others. But you have to love others, you have to serve others, and that's kind of the attitude that we try to have. And
Hmm.
so you'll see things like that, and it's like to think that it's all of us that do that. I mean, I've been outside. We have group the other some caregivers actually I think was here and maybe Pal, and it was icy. The driveway was plowed, but it hadn't been salted, and so I'm out there with the salt and going to the cars and making
Yeah.
sure that everybody's could get out without slipping and falling because it was a lot of black ice. So those are the kinds of things. And the hospitality is great. We've got a great team
Yeah.
with hospitality. But I also say, and I've told Jess, who runs our hospitality, it's obviously that's what they do. That's their thing. But we're all hospitality, right? I mean, everybody here, and you see it when you come in. And again, that's not something that um, I didn't. I inherited. Really, the folks are here
Right.
are great. We have a great team.
Not for nothing, the coffee's good too.
Thanks. It's always helpful.
It's always there. I've been there at like 4 in the afternoon, 9 in the morning. I don't know if you got there's a coffee fairy there that works on the hospital, but there's someone that's on top of their job over there. So, and what was the person? Could you talk a little bit about the person that's the head of hospitality?
Jessica, yeah,
Yeah.
she does a great job. Her and Walter are kind of the two people that are, Jess runs it and Walter works for her. And we have other people that help too, but part-time, but they're really the two that make it happen. And whether it's a support group or a faith-based group, we'll have refreshments, and they'll be usually a little, if the support group meets, they'll have some kind of a, picky food or something, maybe a sausage roll or broccoli roll. It may just be a fruit platter or, and usually there's cookies involved.
Yeah. That's right. Breaking bread, my friend. By the way, the thing that you said, I don't know if you're aware of it or whether you say it so often that it's your mantra, but you had a sentence in 4 or 5 paragraphs ago in this
Mhm.
conversation associated with loving other people. In order to love other people, you have to care for other people. Mike and I kind of always pay attention to those little phrases and those little statements because sometimes they end up turning into some powerful taglines or
Mhm.
some really genuine and authentic ways of sharing with people why we feel it's important to connect and to bond and to look out for your
Mhm.
fellow person and all those good things like that. So appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, well, I think it's great you say that. When we talked about rebranding, we talked about what words would describe us, um, and really the three words we came up with as a team were Christ, compassion, and community, and that's really kind of sums us up in a nutshell.
Yeah. So you keep saying team, so I got to keep picking. So can you tell me about some other people on that team of yours that help to make that function happen on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we've got a great team. My associate director of business, our CFO, Michelle Holliday, she does a great job. Her and Pam Constantine run the business side of it, and they're like behind the scenes, you don't always they'll come in, they're great. They'll take registrations. They're like I said, they're part of the hospitality group of all, we're all part of that, but they keep things running behind the scenes. Without them, as I like to say, they keep the trains running and on time. So they're important. And then I talked about Jess and Walter and the great work they do in hospitality. Irena, she runs our marketing, communications. She's the one that did all the work here on the website, working with McGrogan. They did a great job with the website, and then with C&D on the advertising. She's also helpful. Her and Michelle do a great job. A lot of the changes that we've made in the building, they've got great ideas. I mean, I'm not a good one for how things look, and you know, I don't know, color schemes and all that stuff. I don't do that, but they're great at it. And then Debbie runs our programming and our outreach, and she does a great job with that. We have a lot of great programs, not just the support group programs, but a lot of faith-based stuff. We have luncheons, we'll have dinners. We have our theology on court at Hearts Hill Inn, where people can come and learn about a spiritual topic and ask questions. And it's actually for believers, the curious, and the skeptics. So you don't necessarily have to be you may have questions because you're having doubts, and the people that come and speak will try to answer questions if they can, and in addition to the
Yeah.
topic what they're talking about. And that's really been a success. It's going to be our 10th year in June, so I have a big to
Yeah.
do for that coming up.
So all different denominations, all different facets of belief or disbelief coming together. Do you see the atheists in the room there is there a little adversarial potential of like, the potential argument associated, or does this stay pretty calm in terms of emotion associated with that
Yeah,
stuff?
for the most part, it's pretty calm. And like obviously, a lot of the people that come are Christian or Catholic. Some of the people that come to support groups, they don't, they may not have, and like I said, we're here to help them. So
Mm,
if they benefit, if they left their faith, whatever their particular faith was, and maybe it makes them rethink it, that's wonderful. Or if they want to look at something different, that's good too. But really the support group, the hope is to give them whatever support we can. The faith-based stuff, a lot of it is to try to enrich their own faith journey, whatever it may, wherever they may be on that path. Theology on Court, we actually had last year two inner faith panels. The first one was a Messianic Jew and Christian pastor, two Christian pastors, and then a Catholic priest. And then we had another one in the fall, which included the same Messianic Jew, a Christian who had converted from Muslim, and then another Catholic deacon. And then we're going to try to do one, I think, in the spring. We're really trying to see if we can get a Jewish rabbi and maybe a Muslim imam, and again, either a Catholic or Christian. We're still working through that. And the whole purpose of that is to try to, you know, we know we have differences, but what do we have in common, and how can we work together for the
right.
betterment of all? That's really what the purposes of those particular panels were. So I think people came in with that mindset, and it's about learning about what other faiths do. I mean, I think we may not agree with it, but it'd be nice to understand it. I think you know, not the path to wisdom is through understanding, right?
Mm,
And you can't understand if you don't listen to what other people, where they're coming from.
yeah.
So
So,
trying to encourage that too.
Mike, we're a half hour in. It's been Brian and I rapping here,
I
and here
know.
now it's you usually have some pointed questions. What do you
I
got in that
I
brain of
do
yours?
I do have a question, and I don't know if it's pointed, but I'm so curious.
Mhm.
Um, do you have an idea, Brian, of like how many, and I don't want to call them unique visitors, but can you try to, do you have any idea of like how many folks are coming in and out of the center on an annual basis, just to give me and maybe our audience an idea of just the activity that goes on, the programs. I think we can envision what we want those to look like, but how many folks are there, and then how many folks are coming to the center annually?
I don't know if I have an annual number. Actually, we're going to be running all these numbers down for last year, as we do for our annual report. And our support groups are small. I mean, you may only have a few people, couple people, few people. Actually, you really don't want to have much more. We were just talking about this
Right.
the other day. Maybe a dozen or 15. 15 is probably pushing it because it loses that small group appeal. So, you may have 5, 10, give or take, maybe a little bit more or less, depending on the time of year and what's going on. And then some of the faith-based stuff will have anywhere, gosh, you could run from anywhere from 20 people up to 60 people here at the center. Our theology at Court at Hartsel Inn, we usually average about 40 to 60, but we've had upwards of over 100.
That's
Actually,
awesome.
our first interfaith panel was like 180, I think, that
Mm,
came out there for that. So then we run a number of people that come through. We also have a cookie ministry. People come, usually few times a month to bake cookies. The cookies that we bake, we volunteer every Monday that we're here, if we're not closed or for the weather or for a holiday, over to St. John's and historic St. John's in Utica, and they have a sandwich ministry. They make sandwiches and give those out, and we bring the cookies down. We help make sandwiches, and we do that once a week. We have a love one another ministry. We actually we talked about it last time we were together, and we made donations for all the bedding for Sleep in Heavenly Peace the end of last year at right before Christmas. And of course, Peter said, "Well, we have to," because lamented that I couldn't volunteer because we were going to try to volunteer around that in the fall, and we couldn't do it. And he said, "Well, why don't we do it?" So was that last week? Was it last week? Feels like
it
it was
It
20
might
was.
have
weeks ago.
been.
That was last week, I believe. So what was your take? How did you, now that you've had time to process the bed building? So just for the record, for the audience, we didn't ask Brian if he wanted to go. We said now that he has said that he wants to build beds, he has to go. So and we gathered, I think we had 15 people from the business community from all areas. A lot of people from the Central New York Syracuse market who are kind of in our ecosystem community signed up. It's amazing. Kind of to me, I step back sometimes and dissect things probably a little bit too much, but in this instance, the cross section of people
Mhm.
that we had, it kind of shows a really good idea of the kind of hearts and the character of people that we have in our community, that they were willing to drive, an hour east to come help
Mhm.
build beds in a frigid night and for the right reasons. So yeah, I was just curious what your take was on that experience.
Well, it was great. I mean, you're right, and that was packed. I mean, they packed with volunteers helping. And first of all, if anybody's listening is interested, it's just a great thing to do. And if you're saying, "Well, I'm not really handy," I mean, I was doing the drill press. I mean, they idiot proofed it, and I was the perfect idiot for it because I mean, it was just so easy. And put the board on, drill it, put the thing, move it over, drill it. It's like hand it to somebody else. I mean, it was just easy.
Yeah. Well, I was also in an idiot proof section, and it didn't work because I still messed up something. The guy came over and said, "No, dude, you got to slide it down into the mold a little bit further." And I had all the screws in the wrong place. But with that being said, it was very quick to.
You didn't tell me that.
Well, I'm trying to record things. I was doing stuff, and I'm trying to also help the cause, and I got a little distracted, And he brought it over and said, "Hey, dummy." So anyhow, but
No, it was great. And, when you listen to them talk about, just helping these poor kids who don't have a bed, I mean, it was really a great thing to do. And it's a great thing that they do. And you're right, Peter, the community's incredible. This whole central New York area is full of people who are just giving
yeah,
time, money, effort, whatever,
right.
the need is at a particular time. They really
Yeah.
do have good hearts.
Our good friend Steve Mitchell always says time, talent, and treasure are the
Yeah.
things that we get back. I think it's funny too. And I started this by saying, our community, but I think it's actually more than that. I think it's so easy to see the negative in this world,
Mhm.
right? It's everywhere you look. It's a thumb swipe or a click of the remote
Mhm.
away from hearing the next horrible thing that the media wants you to see. But I believe that there's a whole lot more of good people and good things happening all the time. It's just a matter of doing this and being purposeful and talking and sharing time with the right people who help to unearth. I think we need more of that. Speaking of sharing the good news, we need to take that time to pour into one another and to share the stories and the good of the people that are doing things that are making a difference. So it helps to change the world, maybe one little thing of bed building at a time. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
this role has put me in access to so many other nonprofits in the area, and you just learn more about what
Yeah.
people are doing and
Yeah.
how much they care about this community and those that are in need. So
Right.
it's really it's
Yeah.
gratifying.
Yeah, you're part of that, my friend. You're just another evolution of that for us. Mike and I, when we first started this thing in 2020, it was just to stay visible when we were in a difficult time
Mhm.
with COVID lockdowns and whatnot. And it's more from a lot of, C-level people that we interviewed to in the corporate space to more of the nonprofit world, because it's kind of helped charge our hearts and change our view of the world and how we interact. And if we're being candid, to share what it's just been, it's
Mhm.
been game changing, and I don't want to speak for you, Mike, but we spent enough time together that I've seen and heard your thoughts on it as well.
Well,
But
it's rewarding, right? And it's certainly not a financial or reward.
Mhm.
It's a good feeling, and people feel better after they do it. And if you
yeah,
do it with others, it's even better.
Mhm.
So we're just grateful that Steve Mitchell brought us together, and guy's a rock star. He is not disappointed yet with people he's introduced to us in our making the city smaller community. So
yeah, yeah.
Well, I
And
love what you
speaking,
guys do. I mean, it's just amazing bringing
yeah,
people together. I mean, I've been to some of the functions now, and it's just you meet a lot of great people.
yeah,
It's just amazing. Like you said, amazing. And whether they're in the nonprofit world or they're in the business world, they're helping. They're trying to help their community.
yeah. And today we're going to do a little bit more of that, thanks to Mike Durkin's introduction to Kate Hauk. I think this afternoon, 1 o'clock, I believe. I'm going to be Yeah, Kate Houck will be meeting with us at the Good News Foundation and spend a little bit of time and sharing the synergies of all the people. So Steve's on the board of, or was, I think he's now a emeritus member of the board for David's Refuge. It's an amazing
Yeah.
organization, and I don't want to give away all of what they are. You'll probably hear a lot more about it from Kate today, and trust me, she can do a much better job explaining that than I can. But
I'm
just
looking
kinda
forward
cool.
to it.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Mike, I just want to talk about learning from the other nonprofits. The other day, Brian was kind enough to join me at one of our favorite organizations in Central New York, which is Clear Path for Veterans, and figuring out how we can kind of share resources between the two of how they're doing what they're doing to help other people. And I thought the creating awareness to their their culinary section there, and they talked a little bit about some of the food that they have following the canteens, Mike, and maybe looking at I'd love to look at how we can figure out how to bring some of that food to the groups that you're supporting on Mondays. Could you say it one more time what it was? The church group there?
Oh, St. John's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Right.
in the historic St. John's. Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool way to do that. Maybe I want to get Ryan out, Ryan Woodruff, who's the CEO of ClearPath, out to your organization. Is the Monday cookie thing, you guys are making the cookies in-house? Is that?
Well, we make them. We don't just make them on Mondays. We bring them on Mondays when we
Okay.
make sandwiches, but we do it throughout. Jess sets it up. It can be depends on when our kitchen's available, and you know, she's in charge of the scheduling. So I just love it when they come because I get the chance to. I have a taste the cookie. We all taste the cookies and make sure they're okay. So
This keeps
sometimes I
getting
have to
back to
have a
food.
couple. Yeah, sometimes I have to have two just to make sure.
Right. Yeah. Quality control is important. I'm thinking out loud 100% here, so don't shoot the messenger. We want to do some kind of experience with making the city smaller at the Good News Foundation. Seeing the energy of giving back with our little experiment with an experience for Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Maybe there's some kind of business to business connection experience we can do where we're doing it under the umbrella of giving back with the umbrella above that of Good News Foundation. So is it coming in to make the sandwiches, helping to deliver those sandwiches, helping to take maybe a partnership with ClearPath where we grab they have some food to add to that, and then we get Ryan and his team. That's maybe there's something like that. I just keep trying to figure out a way that we can make this be strategic and powerful. So
let me give it some more thought. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think I'm sure there's something that we can do
Right.
in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of volunteering activity that we could do probably maybe when the weather's better, but it's silly. It's just an idea, just to it could be the spring cleanup where we bring a bunch of Making the City Smaller advocates and we got a couple dozen people and we're helping you guys do something that you're not worried about liability, and we can just with bodies, we can bang out a project that might take you and 3 or 4 people a few hours, and we bring in 20 people and we get it done in 40 minutes and say, all right, what else can we do? And
Yeah.
it's all what I love about those opportunities is they're building bonds, doing it together. They're getting to know the other person's with them that they didn't know before, and they're serving a purpose, and we're making an impact. If we can make those little micro events of volunteer hours and network at the same time, Sleep in Heavenly Peace is great. It was wonderful, but the sanders are going and the drill presses are going. It's pretty damn loud. So you might not be able to talk the whole time with the person next to
talk
you.
at all.
Yeah.
Get to work.
Well, Michael Morone and I both had decent hearing and loud voices, so we were screaming at each other a few times just because we wanted to take that opportunity to get to know each other. So we were intentional. But if it was someone I didn't really know yet and they were soft spoken, I probably wouldn't have tried as hard because it was loud.
Yeah, it was.
Something I'm thinking about too, based on this is what I like about investing time with you and other organizations. When we're sitting talking with Ryan the other day from ClearPath, we were talking about the Flags program, and you were saying, that it's a huge undertaking for your organization, and I'll let you share what that is, but what the Flag program is. Maybe it's that. Maybe we grab 20 people to come down and help when you guys are going to be on the parkway, putting up
Sure.
all those flags to help lessen that burden on
Mhm.
your organization.
Yes.
Also getting people aware of that's happening. So we're helping to
Yeah.
get hands and feet moving, right? To make it your lifting
Uh-huh.
lighter. And then we're also partnering and showing and sharing Citron's piece. Maybe we get some
Yeah.
veterans from ClearPath to come help with that too. And then use the content following that to
Mhm.
show how there's collaboration. So yeah, this is what I like about talking
Mm,
about stuff.
I
I don't
love
know.
that.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Brian?
No, I think it's a great idea. And for those, as you said, for those that aren't familiar with the Flags for Heroes, this was our 11th anniversary last fall, and so for the first week or two of November, usually we start right after Halloween, and we run it right through Veterans Day. You'll see if you come to Utica on the Utica Memorial Parkway, 1,000 flags throughout the parkway, the median in the middle there, the beautiful parkway. And what you can do, or what people can do, is for $40, they sponsor a flag in honor or memory of a, active service member or veteran. It extends to law enforcement too, but and then all the proceeds, we have our expenses, of course, but after the expenses, all the proceeds go to uh, the Citron Military Program, where they do a lot of great work. Jackie Warmoth and the team there, they do great work with our veterans. And this past December, we gave a check for $30,000
Wow.
for their work.
That's
And
awesome.
then also though, and that's obviously great, and they do, like I said, they do such great work. But it's also a great opportunity, as we're preparing for Veterans Day it's just to remember those who have served or are serving now.
Yeah.
And we talked earlier, there's a lot of challenges in the world, and of course we've had a lot of challenges in our country's history. So we're coming up on 250, and we're still here, and we're here in large part because we have men and women who serve. So it's just
Yeah.
a great way to get back.
Yeah, and great people. And you said Jackie Warmoth. She's one of our favorite people who inadvertently also came from Steve Mitchell because she was part of the human technology story that we told a few years ago. But since then, since we had and shared time with Jackie initially, the first conversation we ever had with her, we just kind of fell in love with her energy and who she was as a member of this community and just a human being, salt of the earth. And she's been in the boat with us through our billiards events, through our Vanderkamp events, bringing veterans in to do drumming circles, snowshoeing, volunteering by donating some snowshoes to be used at ClearPath when we did our outdoor experience that you also were kind enough to join us. And I believe went
Great.
snowshoeing for the first time, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Did
So
both. I did the drumming the one time with when Jackie was there with that, and at
yeah,
Vanderkamp, which was great. It's a
yeah,
great place,
yeah.
Vanderkamp. And
Yes,
then
it
we had a
is.
great time at ClearPath too.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful facility, and and
Yeah.
and the grounds are really nice.
They are. So speaking of Jackie and being on the board, I mean, maybe you can share a little bit about the diversity or the group of people supporting your organization and what they mean to who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, we've got a great board. I came on, we have just added some new members. We've got Mike Buckley, I mentioned him before, he's our trustee, and then Judy Hauk, who's our former CEO and executive director, is on our board. Scott Boland's our board chair. He's a veteran himself, former military guy, and Barbara Countryman's our vice chair. John Sedal is our treasurer, and that's kind of our executive committee, the three of them, myself and Michelle Holliday, our CFO. And then we've got a lot of other great people. Probably mentioned Paul Marshall. You mentioned Jackie Warmoth, Joe Giordano, who's been a local teacher. He was in cybersecurity and things like that. It was helpful for us because we were looking to cyber hacking and all that stuff. This is a big deal. I know it from the insurance side. So, we've had a lot of great people who've provided different things. Father Sesta here locally, he's a local pastor in East Utica, and he's on our board as well. So I know I'm missing people. Mary Siniscarco, teacher over at Utica University. So we've got a nice diverse group of board members, and they also have history. Like Barb Countryman's been involved with the Good News Foundation for years, and Matt Kiefer's also been involved. He's on our board as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, no,
So
it's just a great group of folks.
I love that. Where is everybody? So, with everything that's going on, I've had a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of what your plans are, but it sounds like, you've done a great job of bringing us back through the history of, or the
Mhm.
origin of the organization and some of the changes until you got there. But, I'm always excited about the future. And every time I've interacted with you, there's a lot of things that are kind of coming down the road in the future. And thought maybe you could share about some of that vision and how that pairs with your board's perspective and where they've been previously and what you guys want to see for the Good News Foundation of the future.
Sure. No, I tried to spend the first number of months when I was here just kind of getting a lay of the land and a feel for the place and trying to find little things like within the facility that we could do to improve it and other things, some tweaking, in terms of roles with regard to the staff. But um, the big thing now is for us is how do we build on what we have? Like you mentioned, the 60 acres, 60 plus acres that we have here. We have nice buildings, facilities. We also host, I didn't mention it earlier, but we host, and these are more faith-based, but conferences, retreats and things like that. We talked about the businessmen, Christian Businessmen's Connection. That's an outside group that comes in and uses our facility. They're not necessarily our group, a Good News group, but we they come in and use our facilities. And we do have the space for rooms and things like that for folks that want to have retreats and conferences and meetings. Again, most of them are really faith based, but we want to try to grow that. If you come here, we don't have a pavilion or fire pit, some things outside. When we talk about evangelization from a Christian perspective, a lot of the folks that come here are, older, 30, 40, 50, up, and we'd like to reach a younger audience, younger bunch of folks, that, you know, late high school right up to, college and right after college. We have a great facility, but we'd like to add to it to try to attract more folks there. We'd like to expand the trails. We've got a nice trail, but maybe we can make it larger. So we can do more snowshoeing because we can snowshoe here. We do have a few of them.
Mike, do you see
Yeah.
how Brian's learning to kind of carefully come around these conversations so he doesn't get wrangled
Admit it.
into having to do something?
Oh, then he has to do it.
He's like, kind of, you could do those snowshoeing experience. You're learning, my friend. I love it. So, sorry to
We have
interrupt
enough
you,
snow
but
right now, that's for sure. Holy cow.
that's right. That's right.
But, in something I didn't mention earlier when I first got here, and you kind of alluded to it, Peter, is peaceful. That was the word I thought of when I first started working here. It's a peaceful place. We are far from the city, as you mentioned, but you don't feel like you're in a city or near a city when you're here. It's really quite peaceful, and uh, we'd like to bring more people here. And the way to do, some of that is just expanding. We are going to start a capital campaign. We've always had kind of an annual appeal for the last number of years. While the foundation trust has been helpful to run the place, if we want to continue to add more programs and do more things, we do need some revenue. And then we're going to need quite a bit of revenue if we want to do some of the things I'm talking about. Eventually, I'd love to get some cabins for summer type of things, and maybe even a small amphitheater for stuff if we wanted to have something outside, to bring people together. Those are kind of the longer term things. But to do that, we've got to have some fun. So that's what we're going to be talking about the next couple of years.
All the things you said, for me, my brain goes to the fire pit, right?
Yeah.
Because if you started with the fire pit, I think, again, I'm no historian or psychologist by any stretch of the term, but we as humans have used the fire as a way to sit around something before the TV, before it was the
Mhm.
most impressive thing to sit next to as entertainment and then have conversation and
Yeah.
create connection, right? And maybe so again, I'm thinking out loud, but maybe making the city smaller, curated experience, to get funding / sponsorship, and maybe the resource of somebody who has the skill set to do the fireplace. But I'm thinking, collectively probably could figure out a way to do one pretty simply, get the materials paid for by sponsors, and then have the experience be
Mm.
building, even if it's not the end goal of your fire pit, but it's just a fire pit that's, positioned there with some stones or some, specifically bought or purchased supplies or donated from a local landscape organization, or maybe we do a buy the stone, buy each as a sponsor, like a piece of the stone is paid for by the sponsors that we get through making the city smaller. And then we do the experience of putting it together. And then on top of it, to go one step further, to really paint this vision of the dream of what I have for your fire pit, an actual experience where we gather around it as a celebration
Mhm.
of the first fire at Good News Foundation to
Yeah,
start,
that's a great idea.
document it, document the
Mhm.
first fire and break bread, cook a meal on that fire. This is where,
Oh,
slow me
wow.
down, right? But I think, maybe it's just marshmallows,
Hot dog on a stick.
whatever. Like, but I think we could probably do something very simple. I remember going to a Boy Scout camp when I was probably third grade, and we cooked a hamburger. A hamburger. That's it. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't steak. We cooked a hamburger over and I think a baked potato on the coals of the fire. And I remember thinking that hamburger tasted like prime rib to me because it was outside. Your palate is different. You did something with your friends. And I think you could kind of charge that same energy into the
Oh,
business community to come and experience that again at your place and know that they were part of initiating the next step. And I think, by the way, take a step out of the dream world for a second. Let's get into strategy and
mhm.
strategic thinking. We charge the hearts and the energy of those 25 to 30 business people to now
Mhm.
know that you have the concept of a capital campaign coming
Mhm.
in a 12-month period. It's an opportunity for you to talk about what else you want to do besides this
Sure.
fire pit. And it's not a brochure. It's not an email. It's not a MailChimp thing.
Yeah.
They're there being embraced by Logan and team, making that place and you
Yeah.
feel special, and a meal and an experience. That's my mic drop moment for the day.
No, no, I love the idea.
All right. If this call was for nothing else, I think we established a good idea in
No,
that regard. So
a lot of good ideas.
let's go. It only comes from talking. Let me think, Mike.
How do you reach the younger generation? I mean, other than physical attributes that you might think they want to see when they get there, but what's that messaging look like? And and does that messaging you think about the younger people, is it different than you thought when you first walked in the door, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
That's a great question. It's one I struggle with, frankly. But to Peter's point a minute ago, people they like to do social things. I mean, we're social animals, so to speak, and I think you have to have something for them to come to be together. I just really think that it has to be something more along the social, realm to make them feel comfortable. That's my initial thought. I don't know that it's changed a lot, like since I've gotten here. Maybe what we do or how we do it might change a little bit, but people's times, there's a lot going on, regardless of the age group nowadays. Everybody's busy, so I think if you could find something, and you may be onto something, Peter, something different, something that they're not going to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
Uh,
As you're talking, I'm already envisioning how to use a string, draw a circle, cut off the side with a shovel, get
mhm.
some gravel, get some sand. I got this. I'm working the the design in my head. Sorry.
What, and I don't know if I can get my hands on. I'm sure I could. I just should probably write this down so I don't forget it and remind me if it's important. But every year there's a research company in town that does data for the community with my involvement at the United Way. So the United Way has this company do a community engagement and understand what the Gen X versus Gen Y, which versus millennial and boomers, what they want to do to give back. What's their
Mhm,
definition of nonprofit community engagement? And a lot of the younger people, it is volunteering. They don't
mhm,
have treasure. They might not feel like they have talent yet because they're younger,
mhm.
but they have time. And that time is the volunteer time. So I'm going to get you that report. It's
Okay.
pretty, I don't know how many counties it is, but it's more central New York, but I would think it bleeds right into Mohawk Valley demographics. But it would be interesting, I think, for you and your team and the board to see what these different quote unquote generations are thinking of how they want to give back to their
Mhm,
community and what's important to them. And food insecurity is important. Education, I think, is important.
mhm.
So these younger folks are really dialed into the inequities, if you will. And boomers have a different way of giving back than than millennials.
Sure, sure. And I think you're right, Mike. Service is an important part of that.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of things that they want to do. I see it with my own kids.
I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget.
Yeah, and I think you even said that, or I read it on your website. An initiative is getting the next generation of Christians in in play, and I think
Mhm.
that's critical. One other thing too, I think it would be cool. I'm sorry, you guys are gonna think I'm a maniac here, but it's related to the fire. If you use that as a venue for creating a place for other nonprofit leaders to come hang out with you, Brian.
Mhm.
Sit around the fire, fellowship and sharing of resource, mind share, the opportunity
Mhm.
to sit around that fire, give them the value of coming somewhere to decompress after a
Mhm.
long day, because you understand what it feels like to be them and they you, because you're both
Yeah.
doing these things. Share idea like what Mike just did. Hey, did you know that this report exists?
Mhm.
Hey, did you know that this grant program, I saw you
Yeah.
and Ryan do it the other day, right? Ryan's like, are you aware of this thing? And you're like, hey, I thought of this thing. And you guys are both coming
Mhm.
back and forth. But all I keep hearing, you say facility, I say venue. I
Mhm.
want to reprogram your brain to say venue. You have a venue. You have a
Mhm.
beautiful venue. It's 60 acres of peace and serenity, minutes from everyone's hustle and bustle. Grab those nonprofit leaders, bring them to your campus. Let
Venue.
Logan and thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. See, I'm going now. Bring them in and let the hospitality team
Yeah.
show them the Logan shoveling
Mhm.
operation, show them the salting of you, show them the cookie, and then
Yeah.
so you're giving them something, you're giving them reprieve. It's like the respite, right?
Mhm.
Speaking of David, you're giving them respite, but at the same time, that gives them the opportunity to lower the barriers and share and
Mhm.
create connection. And how do we network? Because I think that's important. Our job as what we're doing with our population of people putting fuel in our tank by being part of what we're doing is how do we continue to share other resources and create opportunities for them to connect. Every organization has a different, ClearPath is different than Vanderkamp, and Vanderkamp is different than WCNY, and WCNY is different than Four Elements Studios. But as we learn and spend this time, I'm thinking that we start with doing the service aspects of things with the B2B crowd, but then the networking of
Mhm.
how we help you network is with other leaders like yourself to share resources and expand knowledge based on that capital
Sure.
campaign or the amphitheater that you want to build. I think, yeah. So I think we start with the fire. Anyhow, I'll leave
No,
it at
you're
that.
absolutely right. I
I
think
digress.
the fire pit has been the most appealing thing when I talk about things
Yeah.
I'd like to do.
ClearPath does
Over
it.
the
They do
fire.
Friday night fires, and again, so yours is people of faith or people that you want to draw to their faith. Theirs is getting veterans. In both situations, it's sometimes hard to get people to take that first step to come in, and they implemented the Friday night fires, and they've had great success with getting families to come in. I think Ryan shared a little bit about it. Can you share, speaking of nonprofits and ways that create synergies between them, can you share a little bit about your program where you're giving grants out?
Oh, sure. And again, this was part of our whole effort to evangelize. We have, yeah, and again, it's faith-based, evangelization-based, but the organizations will come to us. And again, they're Christian organizations with something that they're doing or want to do. A lot of times, they're new programs to reach out. It may be something. It could be a church here locally that wants to do something from a educational catechesis perspective. It might be, Rome Y. I think it was it the Rome Y or the Rescue Mission? I'm getting them confused. The Rome Y. We've done their prayer breakfast. We've helped the Rescue Mission with, they have like a maybe Bible study outreach or something like that, and we've given money. Those are just some examples. We've helped, other groups that are working, people in need, but there's usually some kind of spiritual faith-based component to it. But yeah, those are things that we'll give up. It's up to $5,000. We only have so much money, but we'll budget so much in the spring and then so much in the fall, and
Right.
we give out to different organizations to try to do Christian outreach.
So if there's a nonprofit leader board member watching this, and if
Mhm.
they do have if they're out there looking for grants, what do they do? How do they go to your website? Do you have an online inquiry? Do they call you? How do they engage with you?
I like how
Both
you think big.
online and, we have information on our website, and we also have they can call our number here and they can get information. Goodnewsfoundation.org, and then also, our phone number 315-735-6210. So,
Yeah. It's a good question, Mike Dirk. I like Mike
yeah.
thinks about the things, the very practical things that I'm in dreamland talking about fire pits. Mike's like, no, how do we get people to actually figure this out? I love it.
No, it's been a great program. It's always fun to help people. And again, I mean, our reach can only extend so far. And you kind of alluded to it too with the other, synergy with other groups. I mean, there's any one organization can only do so much. So
Yeah.
we have to work together in some capacity,
Right.
whether it's just
Yeah.
helping our community in general, or in our case, because we do have a mission from a Christian perspective to reach out to people.
Yeah. No doubt. I love it.
Since entering this new role again, year and a half, 2 years ago, is there one, I don't know, one change, one event, one milestone, something that you're the most proud of that and I know you're a very humble man, you're not going to take credit for anything, but is there, looking back on it, is there one accomplishment that really just gets you, beaming?
That's a good question too. I don't know if it's necessarily a one big thing. It's really more of a lot of little things, whether it's just a nice small improvement to the building that meant something to somebody, or a lot of times it's just when you hear people come in and, they tell you how much the place has meant to them. Geez, I had a loss in my family, and the grief group, I couldn't have made it without them, or, yeah, somebody's struggling with, they had a family member struggling with addiction, and this place was just, it, we were there for them when they needed us, or somebody who's struggling with their faith who came to one of our, luncheons or whatever, and and it helped comfort them or help bring them closer to their faith. I think those are the types of things that I probably, mean the most to me. And again, it's not anything like you said, nothing I've done. So I just try to, I say to the team, I just try to get out of the way most of the time.
Stop it. So, we appreciate how humble you are. Yeah. So I'm hearing you say, the stories, right? It's the stories of change. It's the stories of inspiration down the road as we go, Brian. There's always an element that I think is critical of if we could ever help you or figure out a way to capture. We can't be in the rooms with those people sharing about their lives. That's, there's no one wants a camera in those spaces, but the capturing the moments of change and inspiration following those changes from your organization would be something that might be to get someone to actually share their testimony the way Steve did about his faith, but more
Yeah.
so about how their faith paired with such an amazing organization in Utica, New York, has changed their life or helped them
Yeah.
overcome or something of that nature. But just some food for thought for the future. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Pete. And if there is someone who wants to tell the world the impact that the Good News Foundation has had on him or her, we would love to have that testimonial. And I know it might not happen immediately, but if you come across that person that wants to tell their
yeah.
5-minute experience, 10 minutes, we would love to capture that. And I think it's so powerful if you can find someone that'd be willing to share
Yeah.
their experience.
Or celebrating someone else, right? Or a remembrance that somebody
Mhm.
else's life that they had in their
Yeah.
family who since, 'cause you're talking about grief, you're talking about, marriage stuff. Maybe there's a success story that they witnessed someone else that they want, or they've passed. Who knows though? It's just something to think about as we
No, we've
go.
talked about it ourselves. Some people are reluctant to give testimonies,
Right.
or maybe they'll
Right.
do it in writing, but not on camera.
Yeah.
And I did mention
Right.
the third option, but we've had people come in and
Right.
talk about the fact that it saved their
Right.
marriage,
Yeah. Well,
so stuff like
another
that.
way to look at that too, Brian and Mike, is maybe the testimonial is not about the support groups as much as is when we help you convert Good News Foundation to that venue mentality.
Mhm.
it can be more about the experience that someone had just by coming to that first fire cookout or coming to that snowshoe thing, getting people to share how sharing time together at your venue, at your place, change their week. Maybe it's smaller changes to people, just
Or-
perspective of people might be a way to start. Cause we want, right? I mean, the goal of us is to help you, I believe, if I'm hearing what you've got to get more people to know about you. And sometimes the best way to do it just by getting people there and doing other things. And then meanwhile, falling in love with that venue.
No,
So,
I think you're absolutely right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I did say to you, I don't know, probably one of the first things I said was, one of the things that struck me when I got here for the first number of months was how few people knew about it. One, and then the people who had been there talked about what it meant to them to be here. So,
Yeah. I
so
love it.
now, like you said, it's getting more people here to understand it and
Right.
and it may not even, they, especially I'm thinking from a support group perspective, they may not have a need for one of the support groups, but they might know somebody
That's right.
who could
That's
use it,
right.
and
Absolutely.
that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just having that visibility to it for them to know that it's there. I think the internet's amazing, right? You can search anything, but I also think sometimes when you're searching, you can also get down and into some rabbit holes. And sometimes websites of organizations are helping do a great job of doing the thing that they think people want to know about that they do. But sometimes it's those little intricate details of, oh, you have a grief um, program for this one particular, where if you're talking to a person and they see it and understand it, that perspective might translate over to someone they love in a more tangible way where they can really know, oh, where is it? How do you get there? And they can actually help them not have to go through that. Some people are get jammed up with a Google search. And I think that we still have to hang on to the human element of sharing what's going on around us to help other people. If I'm thinking out loud, I think something I haven't heard you mention, and maybe you did, and I just missed it because I was paying attention to something else, but the ability to stay there at your place. I don't know if we've talked about your capacity there.
I briefly touched on that. We
Okay.
do have, because it was a home, we have 12 bedrooms in our main building, and then we have a secondary building that has 6 rooms. And so we can host overnights. We've had people come personal silent retreats. We've had, groups. We have had groups. Francis Core, which is a college, age group that just came from Syracuse, was a couple weekends ago. They have a retreat. They've had a retreat here, and they've stayed over.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can accommodate quite a few. Father Jason Hayes, who's the pastor of Mary Mother of Our Savior Church in Utica, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of the Rosary, for those that are in the Utica area. I'm sure familiar with Father. He is an apostolate called the Serenian Apostolate. We're going to start working with him, and I think it's in the fall. We're going to have our first, kind of a retreat here. And the nice thing about it is we can accommodate so many people, but we can also have, if it's something local, some people can just come up here if they're doing stuff during the day. So I think it's going to be a little bit of both, a little bit overnight, a little bit of people coming. I know, the Diocese of Syracuse, because this is where we are from a Catholic perspective. They've had events, overnight things here, retreats, conferences, things of that nature. Like I said, the Christian Businessmen's Connection has been a great way to bring Christian businessmen together. We do actually have, and I didn't mention it earlier, but is it the Mohawk Valley Christian Women's Group? I think they come. They have a breakfast. Is it quarterly or a couple times a year?
Right.
Um,
And does your
so
team make the food for that?
it depends on the size of the group. Um, Jess has talked about trying to expand how many people we can cook for. If it's a small group, yeah, absolutely, we'll do the cooking here. If it's a larger group or bigger function, then we usually have it catered out and brought here.
Yeah. Okay.
It just depends on the size.
Interesting. And the capital campaign that we talked about earlier, I mean, I think that's the main purpose of that is to expand those outdoor activities, right? The amphitheaters, the potential things of that nature.
Yeah, we have a couple things inside our bedroom wing. Could use some air conditioning, and the bathrooms are a little dated. That could use some upgrading, but the bulk of it really is, the facilities themselves have been maintained so well before we took over and since. But Yeah, it's just building. It's really more for building outside and trying to make it even more a more appealing venue. It's already a great venue. See how I use that word venue? I'm gonna change my verbiage.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, because I think it's real. I mean, you have a
Yeah.
space there that's special. So,
No, I agree.
Mike,
And I appreciate you guys
yeah,
highlighting it.
yeah. Well, we appreciate you. You're part of the fuel that makes this thing go, and we don't even know what this thing is. It's changing. It's changing too quickly and expanding in a positive way to just bring more and more people like you and us, like-minded people, together to explore how we can create resources for each other. So it's just kind of it's kind of a cool thing we got in
Well, you
front of
guys
us
are good
here.
for me because I'm tend to be more of an introvert. I'm very happy to I could
Yeah,
sit with a book and, research. Like I said, I worked in the research department years ago. So I
yeah,
could get wrapped up in things like that and not talk to
yeah,
anybody. And but I would probably be okay with that for a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
time, large part. But it's good to get out and meet with people. And in my role, I have to. So,
yeah. I'm a little
but if
sad
you
you
want,
didn't talk about one of your biggest passions.
what's that?
I'm a little sad that you didn't talk about one of your bigger passions personally.
Which one is
Can
that? I mentioned eating. Was there
you
another one?
Well, eating's essential. No, your love for music.
I do. Yes. Yeah, I do love music, all types of music. And I have musically inclined children. My wife Phyllis and we've been married 30 years. I'm trying to play guitar poorly, but we all three of our kids, our daughters, two daughters started piano when they were like 4. Can't remember when my son started guitar, but he was a little bit older than that. But they're all, they all can play. My daughter plays out. You were nice enough to come see her play once at the Gerber's Tavern in Utica, which was great. My son's down in the city. He's getting ready to actually tour with a gentleman he's a kind of a folk type singer. I'm not quite sure what the exact genre is, but
Can you
but
share his name?
my son, it's Hudson Freeman is the artist. He plays guitar for him.
All right. I like it.
Hudson Freeman.
Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to go see them play?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Phyllis and I went down to the city. It was at least a year ago now, and they were
Oh
playing at
yeah.
a venue. So
Yeah. At a venue. Maybe we should
yeah,
get some music at your venue.
that's people love music.
Seriously, a
I do
lawn
love it.
concert. I think a lawn concert would be great there.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely
How about the neighbors though? I bet it might be a little bit
well.
too
Yeah, on the one
early.
side we've got somebody kind of close to us, but on the other side we got a little space. It just depends if we,
Yeah.
sent the
Yeah.
speakers in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and do it the right way, right? I mean, and at the end of the day, you got God on your side. How can they really mess with you too hard?
That's right.
That's right. So, listen, this time has been awesome. I want to just thank you wholeheartedly for your relationship, your friendship with us, your partnership, the opportunity to spend time with you and learn about you personally, get to know a little bit about what drives you from a passion perspective, where you've come through with your career and your trajectory into this amazing organization with Good News Foundation. We're so pumped about the opportunity to share even more time and bring other people inside your four walls, inside your campus, not your campus, but your venue in the future, and to charge other people's hearts and understand that amazing organization, your mission. So that's our goal. And I'll let Mike Durkin share some thoughts on his end.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind, Brian, for me, thinking about your career path and corporate America life, and then having this second chapter, if you will, of being, embedded in a nonprofit that is impacting the community. It makes me wonder what, that next phase will look like for me in a few years when that corporate run is winding down and I'm not ready to stop. So yeah, I guess you are an inspiration. And it's so easy to just interact with you and engage with you and invite you to meet others in our network. So thank you for getting in the boat with us and sharing that beautiful venue. And I am excited for what that looks like on the outside in the future when there may be some things we can do in a community setting outside, whether it's a gazebo or a fire pit or both or an amphitheater or whatever it is. I do believe that campus and that venue is screaming for the public to come visit. It'll be fun to be a part of that as it comes together.
Great. Well, thank you both for the kind words and certainly for the time. You know, one of the, like I said earlier, one of the great things about the job is it's just very rewarding to meet a lot of wonderful people. You know, you guys have been great. I'm happy to call you friends and be a part of this group. I think, you know, what you do, you have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and I have a lot of passion for what I'm doing. And some of the folks I've met at some of the events you've had, they all have a passion for what they do, and so it's just great to get people together who have a lot of compassion and passion for helping others, and that's what you guys are all about, bringing people together to make this community of ours better. And again, I'm just happy to play a little bit of a role in that.
Mm. I never
Thank
thought about this, but is compassion combined passion? Right? I love that's a new way of
Sure.
thinking it. So, well, speaking of words, gratitude is one that comes to my mind. I'm so grateful for both of you for sharing this time. Both of your contributions to this effort, as always, help me learn to be a better person. So, I'm super grateful for both of you, and hope you both have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, guys.
Yeah, Brian.